I have a story from school for you. It's technically V, but I think it fits more here. The 8th grade, learning about World War II in history. He decides that playing this simulator together would teach us a lot about it. Some turn-based game similar to Hearts of Iron. Basically, you play as any nation during the years before World War II and during. Teacher is USA and gives all A students major Allied powers. The rest is first come first served. Wanted a major Axis power, but was too slow and ended up with Argentina. Best friend in same class takes Egypt. Start of game, I see that Argentina is actually fairly powerful, but still much weaker than major powers. Decide I want to go big, so put everything into expanding industry. See that Chile has pretty weak army compared to mine. First thing I do is to simply invade Chile to see what happens. My army goes into Chile territory and basically annihilates them. After 4 turns, Chile is mine. Feeling confident, I invade several other South American countries. Most have small or no military at all, so I take them after only 1 turn. After 3rd country, Brazil places trade embargo on me for my aggression. Brazil is stronger than me militarily, so I stop taking over until I become stronger. Focus on industrializing what I have. Other classmates have, at this point, not done much. Countries ranked by points, mine has doubled, while rest has barely increased. I keep going with rapid industrialization, even though country is in massive debt and goods shortage. Tell Buddy to do the same, since it pays out in the end. Just as the invasion of Poland begins, I decide Argentina is strong enough to take on Brazil. Start by producing goods so as to get rid of shortage penalty. Then just spam military units. Keep a few cities focusing on research since Argentina is behind, and I would probably need tanks later on. After about 20 turns and 50 divisions, plus a few tanks, I feel ready for Brazil. Just mash the units at southern Brazil and push upwards. Brazil holds out for a while, but still loses since I have about 3 times its infantry and tanks. After Brazil, rest of South America follows. At this point, no one has even noticed that I conquered South America, since they were either still trying to figure out the game, or busy watching Poland get taken by Germany. Decide to focus on industry again, but at a much reasonable rate this time. Also decide on getting better units. Germany continues its advance through Europe, takes over most of it save for Soviets, UK, and Spain. Great Britain getting beaten badly in Mediterranean. Player mass battleships at Gibraltar, and is now in full control of it. Italy proceeds to invade North Africa. Tell my buddy that this is his chance. Egypt, who was allied with UK at this point, leaves the Allies and joins Axis. Unlike IRL, Italy's invasion goes smoothly. Him and Egypt split North Africa. Continue on to Middle East. Egypt has okay industry, but still lagging behind me. Decides to use industry to pump out massive amounts of infantry, with Italy giving air and artillery support. Middle East falls pretty quickly as well. Still 1941, but Axis much more powerful than how they were IRL. At this point, Teacher thinks they have become too strong. He tells Soviet Union to attack, even though Germany has done nothing to them at this point. Soviet army is big, but it's stopped nonetheless. It's clear even Soviets will lose, so obviously Teacher is gonna jump in as USA pretty soon. Axis players were generally better, save for Japan, who was getting his ass kicked by China, but Allied were more powerful. USA is especially powerful, enough to probably take on Axis alone even now. Decide that I can't let Axis lose. Proceed to mass units, planes, tanks, infantry, battleships, etc. Use some of the troops to take over Central America and Mexico, while I wait for overall number to grow. Central America goes down easy, save for this one part that America controlled, which I avoided. Mexico is actually fairly strong, but I have pretty good tech at this point. Use planes and tanks to take him out. Teacher actually notices how big Argentina is. Only says, "Good that you are liking the game, Anon." Not long after Mexico falls to me, something big happens in Europe. Spain, who had at this point joined the Axis, as a massive invasion from the sea by USA. This was all happening before Pearl Harbor, so no reason for US to attack yet. Some people tell Teacher this, but he just replies that Axis had become too strong in Europe, and the US wouldn't allow this. Huge army, with highest tech units in-game. Spain was good, but there is nothing he could do. Big fleet goes into Mediterranean, wrecks the German fleet easily. Proceeds to invade North Africa as well. It's smaller than the European invasion force, but still big. Pretty much only Egypt and some Italian forces there. Egypt has a few tanks and lots of infantry, but not much more. Doesn't look like he would survive long without help. Now is the time to act. All while this had happened, I had been loading all of my units into transports and escorting them across the ocean. My fleet is pretty big, but no match for the American fleet, so I can't go help Egypt yet. Decide to go help Axis in Europe instead. I decide to land in northern France and go help Germany and Italy to the south. Landing goes well. I declare for Axis and easily destroy the few American ships that blockaded Europe. With my help, not only is the advance stopped, but it turns into an offensive. USA stops sending reinforcement everywhere except Spain. Massive battle happens. Hundreds of tanks, more than 1,000 divisions, and more units coming in from both sides. Since USA fleet now covered Spain with many more ships, I couldn't help them more. Still produce land units. After a while, I have a pretty big army back in South America. Since they can't go to Europe, I decide to take on continental US. Usually this is a pretty bad idea since US was heavily fortified, and it would take a lot of units to even break the border. But at the moment, I had a huge army just waiting to be deployed. Move up troops to Mexico. US doesn't notice, and I quietly have my whole army there. All of them attacks the south. Since US sends most soldiers to Europe, the place didn't have as many units as expected. I managed to actually break through, but lose a third of my army. After that, I just take as much land as I can before America regroups and begins his counter-offensive. Managed to take over 10 states before his army comes. He has both tech and number on his side, so I can't win. But since my attack, almost all reinforcement abroad has stopped. He panicked after I attacked the states itself and focused everything on me. I look over North Africa and see that Egypt is in the process of retaking what the Americans took. Spain still has a huge US army, but now that he is focusing on me, the Axis should be able to get some breathing room to fight back. It doesn't take long for US to take back his land. He doesn't stop there either, but continues down. My fleet in South America is bigger than his in North America, so he can't invade by sea again. But even going through my defences, he marches on. Hoping to get help soon, the US army in Spain is stronger than I thought. The Americans have already taken over Central America and is pushing into South America. Things are looking grim for me. Shit, well, it was fun while it lasted, I thought. Out of fucking nowhere, Japan enters with like 50 aircraft carriers. To put that into perspective, US had about 20 of them. Apparently he had been building them non-stop since game began. Just pumped out aircraft carriers. 500 more aircrafts now enter the battle. I had about 100 and US 300, but with Japan that meant we owned the skies. Thanks to that help I managed to stall his advance. Axis in Europe finally takes Spain and prepare to help me out. Every one of them pitches into the massive release force. Even a few Egyptian forces are there, now that he has retaken North Africa. They land in Brazil, and together we utterly crush the American offensive. We then easily go into continental US and take over. After about half the states have been taken, we finally see it. Victory! Axis wins. Big fucking cheer from all the Axis players. Don't think I've ever been so happy to win a game. Look over to Teacher. All this time he has been pretty quiet and hiding behind his screen. He walks up to us. I think he's going to be mad for ruining his game. Says, I've played this game with every class since 4 years ago, but this was the first time I had this much fun. Proceeds to congratulate us on our victory and encouraging us to play it on our own. Gives us all free access to playing computers as much as we want after school. And that was a story of how Argentina changed the outcome of World War II.